You wake up breathless, heart pounding, images still burning in your mind, distorted, dark, irrational, a hallway with no end, a face you recognize but can't name, a fall that never lands, a scream that dies before it reaches your throat. And the first thing you do is dismiss it. Just a bad dream, just the mind playing tricks again. But what if it isn't? Carl Jung didn't believe dreams were meaningless. Quite the opposite. He believed they were the most direct expression of the unconscious, raw, unfiltered truths emerging from the depth of the psyche. And nightmares? Those weren't mistakes or random glitches in sleep. They were messages, urgent ones, painful, yes, but purposeful. You see, the unconscious doesn't speak in language. It speaks in images, symbols, archetypes. It doesn't care about logic. It doesn't care what makes sense to your ego. It cares about truth, wholeness, integration. And when something important is being ignored in waking life, something crucial to your inner balance, it doesn't whisper. It screams, and those screams are what we call nightmares. They are the emotional alarms of the psyche. They are the soul's way of saying, "You're not listening to me." You might ask, listening to what? To the part of you that you've buried, to the fear you pretend you don't feel, to the memory you've locked away, to the need you swore was too much, to the voice inside you that was silenced long ago because it didn't fit the image you were trying to uphold. Nightmares aren't punishments. They're invitations. Initiations even. They force you to stop, to pay attention, to feel. And that's precisely why they terrify you. Not because they show you monsters, but because they show you yourself. The ego hates nightmares. The ego wants order, control, comfort. But the unconscious doesn't care about comfort. It wants wholeness, and wholeness requires confrontation with the shadow, with the trauma, with the truth. Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. But before the unconscious can be made conscious, it must first be seen, and it appears first in dreams, especially in the ones you're most afraid to remember. There is a reason the same symbols return again and again, the same setting, the same sensation of being chased, falling, drowning, forgetting, being trapped. These aren't random, these are patterns, and patterns in dreams are like pressure points in therapy. They show you exactly where the wound is. You may be dreaming of a house, rooms you've never seen, doors that won't open. That house is you. You may be dreaming of a stranger in the dark. That's your shadow. You may be dreaming of being lost, or searching, or trying to speak and failing. That is your soul, trying to reconnect with something you've cut off. And here's the terrifying part. If you ignore these dreams long enough, the unconscious doesn't go away. It erupts. It erupts into your waking life, through anxiety you can't explain, through panic attacks, through emotional numbness, through existential dread, until finally, you realize you're not just suffering from a mental health crisis. You're suffering from a meaning crisis. You're living a life disconnected from the very core of who you are. That's what nightmares try to prevent. They're not there to torment you. They're there to break through your denial. They're there to show you what you've refused to feel. Because pain that's buried doesn't disappear. It festers. And if you won't feel it by day, it will find you at night. The modern world trains us to avoid discomfort. We pathologize it, medicate it, numb it. But Jung saw discomfort, especially the kind that emerges in dreams, not as a problem, but as a signal, a symptom of imbalance, a crack in the armor of the false self. The truth is, most people don't want to heal. They want to feel better. They want relief, not revelation. But the unconscious isn't interested in relief, it's interested in truth. And truth requires pain, not as punishment, but as purification. If you can sit with your nightmares, not analyze them like puzzles, not decode them like games, but feel them, you begin to make contact with the parts of yourself you've lost, the parts of you that still remember what was done to you, the parts that still hold the original wound. Nightmares are often the first doorway to shadow work, because the shadow doesn't always show up as anger or jealousy, or darkness in waking life. Sometimes it shows up as a bleeding image in the middle of the night, an archetypal figure that haunts you, a terrifying animal, a dying version of you, a child calling your name. And these aren't hallucinations, they're keys. Jung said that symbols in dreams are not to be interpreted with a fixed meaning. They're living, they're personal and collective at once. The snake may mean danger in one person's dream. It may mean transformation in another's. What matters is not the symbol itself, but your relationship to it, your emotional reaction, your resistance, your fear. Fear is the compass. If a dream terrifies you, that's not a sign to reject it. It's a sign to sit closer. The more you avoid it, the more power it has. But the moment you stop running from the monster, something strange happens. The monster begins to change. It may still be grotesque, but it's no longer chasing you. It's waiting, watching, asking to be understood. This is the magic of dream work. You start to realize the monster is often a part of you that was never allowed to exist. The dying figure is a version of you that needs to be released. The stranger is a forgotten part of your identity. And when you embrace them, not intellectually but emotionally, you begin to reclaim energy that was lost to repression. That's what healing looks like on the level of the psyche. It's not just peace, it's power. Because when you no longer fear what's inside you, nothing outside of you can control you. Nightmares don't mean something is wrong with you, they mean something inside you is finally trying to be right again. They are the unconscious making itself known in the only way it can, through image, through sensation, through emotion. And so, the next time you wake up shaken, don't just brush it off. Don't numb it. Don't scroll past it. Sit with it. Ask, what was I being shown? What part of me is trying to speak? What fear is asking to be felt? Because your nightmares are not the enemy. They are the messengers of the soul. And when you're finally ready to stop fighting them, you might discover something extraordinary. They weren't trying to destroy you. They were trying to wake you up. If you've stopped dismissing your nightmares, if you've come to accept that your dreams are not random noise but encrypted truths, then the next question becomes, how do you begin to understand them? How do you engage with these messages from the unconscious without reducing them to shallow interpretations or pop psychology formulas? Carl Jung never saw dreams as puzzles to be solved. He viewed them as living organisms, each one a unique expression of the psyche, flowing with emotional, spiritual, and symbolic intelligence. And just like living organisms, dreams resist being dissected. The moment you try to pin them down with rigid logic, they die. Their magic slips away. Jung emphasized, we don't interpret dreams to explain them. We interpret dreams to relate to them. That's a radically different approach than most people are used to. You're not looking for the meaning. You're looking for the relationship between the dream image and the emotional truth it represents. You're not analyzing, you're listening. This is where symbols come in. The unconscious doesn't speak in paragraphs, it speaks in metaphors, a locked door, a burning house, a dead bird, a strange light. These are not riddles. They're mirrors. And what they reflect is not literal content, but inner states, fears, conflicts, unmet needs, emerging potentials. The image is a carrier. The real message is in the energy behind it. Let's take an example. Suppose you dream of a child lost in a forest. The mind may jump to all kinds of interpretations: childhood trauma, fear of isolation, vulnerability. But Jung would ask you, how did you feel in the dream? Was there panic? Guilt? Did you identify with the child or the one looking for them? The emotional charge reveals your psychic position. The forest may not be just a forest, it may be the chaos of your own inner world. The lost child may not be a memory, it may be your current sense of disconnection from yourself. Symbols are never fixed. That's why dream dictionaries are worse than useless. They collapse the living richness of the unconscious into stale archetypes. Jung's approach was deeply personal. He knew that one person's snake might be sexuality, another's transformation, and a third's repressed aggression. The image must be felt, not just categorized. But Jung also knew that there were universal forces at work. Archetypes. These are not symbols in themselves, but primordial patterns of psychic energy, forms that shape human experience across time and culture. The mother, the shadow, the trickster, the hero, the wise old man. These archetypes show up in dreams cloaked in personal images, but their power comes from the collective unconscious. When an archetype appears in a dream, it often comes with a weight that is hard to explain. You feel it. It's not just a figure, it's a presence. A mother may appear in a dream and not resemble your actual mother at all. But the emotional field around her might carry nurturing, judgment, suffocation, abandonment, whatever version of the maternal principle your psyche is struggling with. The shadow, too, shows up frequently, and not always as a monstrous figure. Sometimes it appears as someone you dislike, someone who provokes you, chases you, judges you. But Jung reminds us, the shadow is not evil. It is simply what you've repressed, and dreams give it form so you can finally look it in the eyes. One of the greatest mistakes people make when approaching dreams is to immediately turn them into action steps. As if the dream said, you feel lost in your career, so quit your job. That's not how the unconscious works. It doesn't offer instructions. It offers confrontation, reflection, illumination. The transformation doesn't happen by changing your life overnight. It happens by expanding your awareness of what's already true. This is why dream work is not about control. It's about surrender. You don't enter the dream to master it. You enter to meet yourself. You allow the image to unfold inside you, and you watch what it stirs. That's where the real work begins. Not in understanding the image, but in feeling what it asks you to feel. Sometimes this process is uncomfortable. That's the point. Jung taught that the unconscious compensates for the one-sidedness of the conscious mind. If you're too rational, your dreams may be emotional. If you're too moral, your dreams may be wild. If you're too in control, your dreams may show chaos. It's not random, it's balancing. The unconscious is trying to restore what your conscious mind has excluded. So when you dream of violence, don't assume you're becoming dangerous. Ask, what power have I suppressed in myself? When you dream of being chased, don't assume you're weak. Ask, what part of me am I refusing to confront? When you dream of falling, drowning, dissolving, don't assume you're broken. Ask, what identity is dissolving so that something deeper can emerge? Every symbol is an opening, a possibility, a thread into the labyrinth of the soul. And when you follow it, not with analysis, but with presence, you begin to integrate. You begin to see that the monster in your dream may be the protector you disowned, that the darkness is not empty, it's fertile, that the death in your dream is not an ending, it's an invitation. One powerful method Jung recommended was active imagination, a process of consciously engaging with dream figures. Instead of trying to decode them, you dialogue with them. You imagine sitting across from that dream figure and asking, who are you? What do you want from me? Why have you come now? The responses may surprise you. Often, what we fear in the dream has wisdom for us. The monster may say, I carry your rage. The dying child may say, you forgot your vulnerability. The collapsing building may say, it's time to rebuild from truth. These are not delusions. They are revelations, if you're willing to receive them. This is why working with dreams is a sacred practice. It requires humility, courage, stillness, and most of all, a willingness to feel more than you understand. Because the goal isn't to solve the dream. The goal is to let the dream transform you. In modern life, we're taught to prioritize cognition over intuition, facts over meaning, results over process. But the unconscious doesn't care about those values. It moves in spirals, not straight lines. It offers symbols, not sentences. And when you meet it on its own terms, something profound begins to shift. You stop seeing yourself as a problem to fix and start seeing yourself as a mystery to unfold. This is the heart of Jungian dream work. Not to escape reality, but to expand it. Not to bypass pain, but to understand its language. Not to reject the irrational, but to honor its wisdom. Your dreams don't come to you by accident. They come when the soul needs to speak. And your nightmares? They're simply the messages you've been ignoring the longest. When you finally turn toward them, not to fix them, but to feel them, you begin to recover something priceless, the thread back to your inner world. And that thread doesn't just lead to healing, it leads to wholeness. What happens when you stop running from the images that haunt you? What happens when, instead of trying to decode your nightmares like puzzles, you let them sink in, let them breathe, let them change you? Jung's answer was simple, but not easy. You begin to transform. Not by force, not by willpower, but by inner alchemy. The ancient alchemists spoke of turning lead into gold. Jung believed this was never about physical metals. It was about the psyche, about taking the base, rejected, biritu, worthless, found parts of ourselves, the lead, and through reflection and integration, turning them into something radiant. Dreams, and especially nightmares, are filled with that psychic lead, and your work is not to discard it, but to enter it, to suffer it, to redeem it. This is why the path of dreams is not a shortcut to healing. It is the work, the kind that strips away illusions, that dismantles false identities, that shows you, without apology, everything you've tried not to feel. Not because the psyche wants to punish you, but because it wants to wake you. True healing doesn't happen by removing pain. It happens by facing it without flinching. And when you begin to face your nightmares, not just endure them, but enter them, you begin a process Jung called individuation, the slow, often painful unfolding of the self. Individuation is not self-improvement. It's self-reclamation. It's becoming what you already are, beneath the conditioning, the fear, the suppression. And your dreams, especially the ones that terrify you, are maps, not maps to some perfect spiritual self, maps to wholeness, maps to your center. But to follow those maps, you have to give up the fantasy that healing will be peaceful. It won't, at least not at first. It will be chaotic, disorienting, uncomfortable. Because to integrate the parts of you that were exiled, you first have to let them speak. And many of those parts are angry, afraid, grieving, starving for attention. When those parts appear in dreams, they don't wear name tags. They show up as violence, as confusion, as loss. But if you look closer, if you stop reacting and start witnessing, something begins to shift. The monster in the dream is no longer just terrifying. It's desperate. The dark room isn't just empty, it's full of echoes. The storm is not punishment, it's the energy of change. This is the moment when the dream stops being something that happens to you and becomes something you are inside of. A process, a ritual, an encounter with your own soul. And in that encounter, a space opens, not outside you, but within. A space where feeling is no longer the enemy, where uncertainty is no longer shameful, where fear no longer needs to be denied. This is the inner sanctum where true transformation begins. And it often begins with the most unlikely guide, your nightmare. You see, the unconscious doesn't just want you to see your pain, it wants you to contain it, to make space for it, to let it be part of the narrative, not something to escape, but something to carry with awareness. And when you do that, the energy locked in repression begins to release. Your psyche stops fighting itself. And for the first time, you experience what Jung called psychic wholeness, not perfection, not peace, but integration. This is when dream figures begin to shift. The monster becomes a teacher. The dying self becomes a gateway. The helpless child becomes a part of you that you now hold, not abandon. These shifts don't happen because you understood the dream. They happen because you lived it differently. You felt it without defense. You let it move you. And when a dream moves you, your waking life begins to reflect it. not with magical outcomes or instant clarity, but with subtle realignments. You speak with more honesty. You react with less fear. You stop repeating patterns that once felt inescapable. Why? Because the parts of you that were once driving those patterns from the dark are now in dialogue with you. You're no longer at war with your own depths. Jung often said that the unconscious becomes dangerous when it's ignored, but once it's integrated, it becomes a source of wisdom, vitality, even grace. It stops sabotaging you and starts guiding you. But that guidance comes only through relationship. And the dream is the place where that relationship begins. Dreams are not there to give you answers. They're there to help you ask better questions, to wonder again, to feel again, to surrender the need for control in exchange for something much more powerful: contact with the truth of your being. This is what alchemy means in the Jungian sense. Not escape, not transcendence, but contact. A slow burning process where the dense material of fear and repression is cooked in the fire of awareness until it becomes light. That light is not blinding. It's subtle. It appears in moments, in the way you respond differently to pain, in the way you stay present with discomfort, in the way you forgive the parts of yourself you used to fight. And make no mistake, this is spiritual work, not in the sense of belief systems or dogma, but in the sense of depth, of soul. Jung believed that dreams connected us not only to our individual unconscious, but to the collective, what he called the collective unconscious, that vast reservoir of human memory, experience, and myth. When you dream of archetypes, you're not just meeting your own symbols. You're stepping into a space that transcends time and culture. You're joining a human lineage that has always used dreams to navigate the unknown. That's why dream work is more than personal healing. It's ancestral, mythic, sacred. And your willingness to enter that space, to stop rejecting what haunts you, is an act of inner initiation, a rite of passage into adulthood, into authenticity, into the truth that wholeness includes the broken parts. So now the question isn't whether you dream, it's whether you listen. It's whether you stop turning away when your soul knocks in the middle of the night, whether you answer. Because your nightmares were never trying to destroy you. They were trying to reunite you with the parts of yourself you were taught to fear. They were never enemies. They were messengers. And now that you've heard them, the choice is yours. Will you wake up or keep sleeping with your eyes open? Damn.